Folks, it is Friday, and on Friday we should be celebrating. And on Friday we should be raising a toast to the weekend. But unfortunately, there are many families, including figure skating families, including military, that are unfortunately they're mourning this week on a tragic accident that happened in Washington D.C. If you did not catch it, unfortunately, a Black Hawk helicopter, military helicopter, collided with an American Airlines plane. Over 60 people were killed, no survivors, unfortunately. And as the stories emerge, the question is, why was there only one person in the air traffic controller doing multiple jobs? Why? Why are we not getting the best people to do some of the most difficult jobs? And when you start to clear the dust, you realize the unfortunate thing is we didn't hire for smart. We hired for something else. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Friday edition of the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon. That guy is Stuart Brisgell, who I'm not sure what he's loading up right now on screen.
With over 8 million
we're
broadcasts
unedited, unfiltered,
and over
uncensored,
600 million viewers.
Unapologetic conversations on a wide variety of topics. Okay, we cover everything from news, pop culture, and so much more. Tune in for this roller coaster. Okay, as we go through the honest opinions, diverse perspectives, we're going to make you think, and we're going to actually probably get you very angry today. So sit back as we once again tackle another difficult situation that, I'm sick and tired of 3 letters, Stuart. DEI. I'm sick of hearing it because DEI has turned what should have been a good thing into a really bad thing. And I'm going to tell you, I know quite a few people who are DEI advocates who are screaming it's racist. You are putting us back to Jim Crow. You're going on and on and on all these things because look at the advancements we made in DEI. And then you start to say, in the last year, look at all the mistakes and problems that have occurred. And are you sure you still believe in this? Stuart, I don't want to stomp on the deaths of people, but this might have been avoided.
You have about 67 souls that died in a very tragic, unfortunate accident. And there is no excuse when there is loss of life because of either error or inadequacies. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, immediately came out kicking that there are issues with infrastructure in the United States, and the hiring practices of DEI have obviously or likely played a role. Now, without any evidence, the media knocked Trump from mentioning DEI at the podium response. Press conference. And the media has been treating this with so much hostility because they're still trying to relitigate the last election where they were eviscerated. In many podcasts I've come out, do you want the second best doctor to do the life threatening surgery, do or die? Or do you want the second best because they're of color, race, or creed? The whole concept of DEI is the basis of discrimination by race, color, or creed. And that is not an American. In fact, it's not even a Canadian, Mexican, North American practice. It is something that is beyond disgusting. In fact, it's trying to, quote, redo what someone else has done wrong. And we have known in the past that doesn't solve the problem. So whether you listen to Forbes, CBC, CNBC, CTV, NPR, or whatever channel, they are fighting back that no, there's no chance in hell that DEI played any role. Well, I hate to tell it to you. If there are thousands of positions open that have not been filled, well, chances are they haven't been filled because of a quota. That's the only logical thing. Not qualified candidates. There's lots of qualified candidates. And Donald J. Trump gave a promise on a campaign to cut DEI from government and hiring practices, and towers are government agencies under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government, which have kept the friendly skies the safest in history. But we have yet another problem with avionics today and commercial travel, which has grossly been overlooked. And again, these are not necessarily actual numbers, but Reagan National Airport theoretically could handle 17 million passengers a year. And they have been stuffing 25 to 35 million people there annually. Not to mention the vast amount of utilization that our government uses Reagan. And as we've now discussed or heard from a transparent Department of Homeland Security, that they do drills to recertify pilots in an extraction in case of one of these movie type catastrophic incidences in the DC area to protect and continue governance, which is the forefront pillars of the world. If the United States is weak, the world is in a peril. As much as I love Canada, where I grew up, unfortunately, they are not the pillar in the world of safety and security. They lend to it, they aid to it, they have a voice in it, but it is the United States that leads this charge as communist China and Russia lead the axis of evil. They want to dominate, and the American way wants to dominate. Canadians sort of get a little fickle over the subject because, oh, we're Canadian, we're not American, trying to deny their North American roots. But the governance of Canada, though different than the United States, because Canada is not a republic, you need to understand that our similarities are more like the same versus the same of, let's say, China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, which would be the axis on the other side. And instead of denying your differences focusing on your differences, you should be including your similarities, which goes back to bringing in DEI and the cancer in which Harvard University created in the 60s. And you know, David and I actually had a rant. I believe it was our first year of ranting, where we broke down and challenged people to challenge DEI. Listen, is it appropriate to discriminate against race, color, creed? Absolutely not. Was the 60s a pivotal moment in history? Absolutely. From Martin Luther King saying, I am a man, and being completely misrepresented, I am a black man, for those sharptons of the world who are charlatans, who prey on those that are weak-minded and are lamb going to slaughter. You know, one thing that's come out of this election being so anti-DEI is the fact that we have recognized that it doesn't work. To discriminate against your color, your upbringing, or the side of tracks you grew up on is not an American way. It's not a North American way. It's not a Canadian way. You know, the elites want to be elites and want to push down the middle class. They say they don't, but why do they constantly seem to achieve that goal? When in the most recent, and David, you brought it up in the green room about Kennedy being sifted and beaten up over the income that he gets from pharmaceutical. You know, I challenged any one of you to check any member of the DNC on where their money has come from, whether it's from foreign governments like the Bidens who have been acquitted before even being charged, or if it's Menendez who's sentenced for the most amount that any member of the government has ever been sentenced to jail. And that, to be truly honest with you, may not have been enough. It doesn't dissuade the Pelosi's and the Reids of having funds created based off their trades and the millions and tens and hundreds of millions that these politicians make without breaking a law. David, DEI, in closing, and from my part of the rant, hasn't provided any good in society. It hasn't improved anyone's life except enrich those who profit from divisiveness, not inclusion. You know, why did the Republican Party take the popular vote, something not done in nearly 40 years, is frankly because We tried it the other way and it didn't work. And, Donald J. Trump picking on Justin Trudeau only exacerbated the problem plaguing Canada. Canada is another great nation under attack, trying to be better when in fact they've become worse. The ideas of Justin's father, Pierre Trudeau, though one of the worst prime ministers in history, nowhere's near as bad as his son. And even the French-speaking, angled-mouth man who was not a lover of all, was one of the biggest racists in power, probably next to the Australian and Irish governments. Right? It comes today that even in the broader world, being an ostrich, not saying the facts, not giving two sides of the story, not being a Cronkite when it comes to news is what's destroyed our culture.
So I'm trying to figure out where Stuart was going with all this, because he now covered every topic in the world. Stuart, I just got to tell you that I appreciate your comments. I just think you just missed one really critical point here. Okay, one critical point, and it's not about Canada and England. It's about mindset. The mindset is that at this moment, young people for the last 20 plus years, and I say young people, millennials, Gen Z, have all been told while their brains are forming still. I mean, we're talking about teenagers and 20-somethings, and they're not fully mature, and they don't fully get it because they haven't lived yet the life. What did they do? They learned that we are wrong, that white males are wrong, that we are white supremacists, that we have ruined the lives of everybody who's in that DEI box. Now, that DEI box is limited to only certain people, right? African Americans, LGBTQ. I mean, you can't be part of this group unless you agree with this group. And if you disagree with this group, you are excluded. So it's, someone used the term reverse racism, and they said, oh, no, you can't have reverse racism. That doesn't exist. Really? Really? Please explain to me what you're talking about. And so what we're seeing today, my friend, is a group of people who are so full of garbage that you said it yourself, they have created a movement over decades to convince people you and I are wrong. You and I are the problem. And it's not about merit, because if it was about merit, we got an advantage. And if it was about merit, it's because we're white. It's because we're male. Now, I can't rewrite history. I'm not going to go back and say, look, most jobs were dominated by men. I agree. It was only 100 odd years that we're seeing women really get into the workforce. And a lot of it had to do with the war effort. Okay? So it takes time for society to change. But what DEI wants to do is to change the rules in the game. The rules are to force you to do things that may not be good for everybody, not for the business, not for society. And if in fact, and what Pete Hegseth said, and I applaud the new Secretary of Defense, was, hey, I don't really care who you are. If you got 4 noses and 18 eyes, and those are my words, I'm going to hire you because you're the best at the job. Mm-hmm. And it's not anymore. It's not right to go put people's lives in danger. Now, this is a 1 in a bazillion. They said 1 in 10 million chance this was going to happen. And over the next few months, we're going to hear what was really wrong, what was really whatever. But people, this is a wake-up call. A wake-up call in when you're dealing with people's lives. FEMA having the wrong people in place because of DEI. The FBI having the wrong people in place because of DEI. The military having the wrong people in place because of DEI. And you're going to say to me, no, they're not the wrong people. We're just balancing it out. What are you balancing? Skin color?
Yeah.
Really? That's the merit?
Race, gender.
To tell me, and to tell everybody that an African American person only wants to deal with another African American because they're the only ones who understand is not naive. To me, it's just showing bias. You're telling me I'm a white supremacist, which is ironic because as a Jew, I wasn't a white supremacist until 10 minutes ago.
Well, you're not white. We had that argument. We had that debate.
Forget about that. We had this conversation a while back. But to me, Stuart, and I'll wrap it up with this, to look at what's going on in your country, my country, England, France, Belgium, and all this, wherever DEI was overemphasized, decline. You see a decline. You want to see things go back to where they should be? Go back to merit-based. And you know what? Don't force change because of skin color. Start at the beginning. You want to make a change, Stuart? Let's change the education system. Let's make it more balanced. Okay? And stop complaining about DEI policies. We both ranted for a very long time, Stuart. So you have any last words you want to share with our viewers?
Have a great weekend. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, and Dave's going to close up this broadcast while I blast some music.
Yeah, well, let me just put it this way. Stuart yeah. Anyways, on that note, folks, we will be back on Monday. So wishing you all a wonderful weekend. And